Chapter 22, the different stages of your emotional guidance scale. Very important words. Your emotions are indicators of your vibrational frequency. So what Abraham is saying is that the emotion itself does not have a vibrational frequency. The vibrational frequency is coming from us. And the labels, the names that we give to different emotions don't really matter, because in reality there are only two ways to feel. Either we feel good or we don't feel good. That's it. I love these words and I'm going to say them out aloud, and it would be really helpful for you to write them down. The very first time I read this book, I wrote these words on a yellow sticky and I stuck it on my bathroom mirror, because I would then be able to see them in the morning, which was fantastic. So let me read these for you. And I'm changing it. So Abraham says, you are free. I'm going to change it to I am free. I am free. I am powerful. I am good. I am love. I have value. I have purpose. All is well. Those are beautiful words. Those are beautifully general words that can ring true when you say them out aloud. They will ring true to the core of your soul. You'll feel goosebumps going down your body somewhere or the other. And you'll know that those words are resonating with your inner being, because that's what your inner being wants you to believe. Your inner being wants you to believe these words. And when you repeat them, you close the gap between where you are and where your inner being is. Okay, so page 114, Abraham lists out from 1 to 22 different labels for emotions. And I want you to disregard it all. And in fact, Abraham themselves said to disregard it all. Because it doesn't matter whether you call yourself bored or pessimistic. It doesn't matter. I think that having labels makes it harder for people to figure out where they are on the emotional scale. But if you just pay attention to whether you're feeling good or not good, that's enough. Because the next thing after that is the question, how can I feel better? How can I find some relief? Relief is the word Abraham uses here. How can I find a little bit of relief from the feeling? And that's all you need. And so word labels for your emotions are not absolutely accurate for every person who feels the emotion. One person feels hope differently from another person. One person feels depression differently from another person. Nowadays, depression is used very commonly, whereas depression means certain specific behaviors. If you look at the way psychology describes the state of depression, but people will say, oh, how are you feeling? Oh, I feel depressed. Why? Because so and so happened. But they're not really depressed. Because a person who is depressed cannot function. A person who is depressed hides in their bed with the covers over their face, cannot stop crying, and cries for no reason at all. That is the clinical description of depression. But the problem is when you say, I feel depressed, that perpetuates the feeling of not feeling good. And then when someone else says that they're depressed, you can't really understand it, because your depression is completely different from this person's depression. This person can't function, and you look at them and you say, that's not depression. I've been depressed and I wasn't feeling this bad. So come on, get a move on, right? And that person, for them, it is real. See, here's the thing I want you to understand. Whatever somebody is feeling, it is real for them. And whatever label they give it does not matter. The only thing we need to understand is whether they feel good or not good. So now Abraham walks us through an example of somebody who is in a state of depression. So if you're in depression, what they're trying to say is, if you're in depression and you go up the emotional scale, first of all, you cannot go very far up the emotional scale from depression, because of the fact that depression is negative emotion with a lot of momentum. That's why, because as you go down the emotional scale, you have spent enough time in a negative place for depression to happen in the first place. If you dipped a little bit and then went back up and dipped a little bit and then went back up, it wouldn't matter so much. Depression happens when you stay in a feeling of powerlessness for an extended period of time. And when you stay in any emotion for an extended period of time, that generates a lot of momentum. So depression has a lot of momentum. Where's my handy dandy board? Oh my, silly me, I did not clean it last night. Okay, so I want to explain something to you. And it goes back to that example of merry-go-rounds. Abraham from time to time has called them discs. If you've been listening to Abraham for a couple of years, you will know that they used to use the concept of a disc. So here I am going to actually draw a disc. So here's this disc, and it is spinning round and round with a lot of speed. So much speed that it makes you dizzy. This is depression. In order to escape this, so it's not easy to escape this because it's going round so fast. It's not easy to escape this. In order to escape this, you can't jump from depression right over here to a place of love and joy. That's a very big jump for someone who is depressed. So Abraham says, if you are here, then look for anger, because anger, in fact, before anger, there's blame and guilt. So people who are depressed can feel blame and guilt. Guilt is pointed towards them, which is the next logical step from depression. Depression means I have no power, nothing's working for me. I just want to crawl into a hole now and let it be over. But when you go to guilt, guilt is a better feeling emotion. Guilt says I did something wrong and now I don't know how to fix it. But a better feeling thought than that, if you keep focusing on the guilt, then you start thinking, no, it's not just me. That person did that, and that's why I did what I did. So then you go from guilt to blame. And when you're in blame and you're saying, that person is responsible for what happened to me, it's very easy to step into anger. Now, the reason anger is important, and Abraham talks about it a lot, is because anger is considered in our society inappropriate. Anger, the expression of anger is considered inappropriate. Don't be angry. We're taught not to express our anger. And in reality, we should not express our anger, because if you act from this place of anger, action, converting your anger into action, taking action from here, does not go well, because then you end up accessing the field of all possibilities from here. So anger and revenge take you up from depression. So they bring you up from depression. But the thing to do is to enjoy these feelings in your head and not to combine them with any sort of action. The reason I say that is because imagine if your neighbor, let's say your neighbor came and keyed your car. Now you're angry. You're really angry. Well, sweeter than anger is revenge. So if you went to revenge, which feels better than anger, but then you acted from here, which means that you went and you broke their, I don't know, one of their windows or something. How is that going to improve the situation? It's not going to improve the situation. In fact, that if you take revenge or you express anger, the result of that action is going to take you further down the emotional scale. So it is always better to enjoy those feelings in your head. Enjoy your anger, by all means. Enjoy revenge, by all means. But do not give vent to it in the form of action. You see, this is what goes wrong with a lot of people who are incarcerated because they did something that the world thinks is inappropriate, is they didn't know any better. They did not understand that anger and revenge are logical steps of going up the emotional scale, but you've got to keep going. If you act from there, now you get stuck in a loop. So you act, and then people, I don't know, mistreat you because they don't like your behavior, and then you go back into depression. And when you rise from depression, you come to anger, then you act out again, and people don't like it and make you feel unworthy, then you go back down. And it just becomes a vicious circle of going into anger and then down, and then into anger and then down. And I will tell you this, keep it to yourself, that when I was younger, that was me. Anger. I used to get really angry, and I would express my anger from that place, and it would not go well. I was made to feel inappropriate. However, and there were times when I went all the way down into depression, but then I figured it out. I figured out the fact that it was okay for me to feel anger, but just not to show it to other people. So what I used to do is when I felt angry, I would just go out and grab a couple of stones and throw them at a wall or a tree or something, because I had to vent that energy that was boiling up inside of me. Once I vent that energy, then the anger left and I could go up the emotional scale again. Now I know better. Now I know that I don't even need to do that. I can just play it out in my head with my imagination, and then that anger will subside. And that's what Abraham is talking about over here. They're talking about how people get stuck and how to get unstuck. You don't get unstuck. So you know what? A lot of times, if somebody is really angry, someone will walk up to them and say, "Oh, come on, you're just being silly. This is nothing to be angry about." Well, at that point in time, that angry person wants to hit them really hard, because anger has a lot of momentum and this person is not understanding it. See, from anger, you can't go to joy. You can't just get rid of anger. You just don't. It's not like a piece of clothing that you can just take off and put another piece of clothing on. No, it's not like that. Anger gets under your skin, and it is a lot of energy that you have to find a way to release, because it has momentum, you see. And so other people cannot understand. That's one of the things that Abraham is saying over here, is that people don't expect other people to understand how you're feeling, because nobody can do that. I don't know where they said that, but they said that nobody's going to understand how you feel, so stop expecting it. Here it is, page 118. Someone outside of you does not know if your chosen thought of anger is an improvement for you. Only you can know. And that's important to understand. And it is not anyone else's job to understand our emotions. It's our job, because it's our guidance system. It's like thinking that I have a GPS in my car, but I want the other person in the car next to me also to follow that GPS and to understand the instructions that my GPS is giving me. I want the person in the car next to me that's in the other lane to be able to listen in to those instructions, understand them, and then execute them with me. That's impossible. Nobody can do that. But that's what we do when we expect other people to understand our emotions. Stop expecting it, because nobody can. And I'll tell you what, when you stop expecting other people to understand how you feel, you actually gain a lot of freedom. It frees you up, because the only reason you want other people to understand how you feel is because you don't want them to think that you are inappropriate in any way. That's why. But when you stop showing your emotions to them and you find other ways to deal with your emotions, then you never have to worry about how they feel about you, right? And the thing is, you only want to play with other people from a high place on the emotional scale, because when you're high on the emotional scale, you exude love and joy, and then everyone wants to come and play with you. All right. Now, these are words that Abraham said that really resonated with me. The seeming lack of control of your life experience is mostly because you do not realize in which direction you are headed, meaning which direction you're headed, up or down the emotional scale. Most people do not realize which direction they are taking. And because they don't know which direction they're taking, they can make incorrect decisions about how to act and how to think and feel. So the thing to do is to observe what is manifesting in your life, because our manifestations are the second thing that give us an idea whether or not we are heading in the right direction. Okay? All right. So then Abraham says there are many words that are used to describe emotions, but really there are only two emotions. One feels good and one feels bad. That's it. And I like to use a scale of 1 to 10, where to me 10 is joy. And so I want to add to what Abraham teaches by helping you to understand that if you don't have a benchmark to compare with, right? For everything, if we're going to compare, if we're going to grade something, we need to have some benchmark. And so to me, my benchmark of joy is jumping up and down on a mattress and playing with my brother, pillow fighting with my brother, or blowing bubbles, or playing with balloons. Those to me are absolute joy. They are 10s. And not just my brother, but playing those same things with my children, those are a 10 for me on the emotional scale. And then I also know what depression feels like, because I've been in that feeling of feeling completely powerless. So I know when I ask myself, how am I feeling on a scale of 1 to 10, I know what a 10 feels like, and I know what a 0 feels like. I also know what worry feels like. I have been there. I have seen other people do it. I have done it. So I know when I'm worried and when I'm kind of sort of flirting with worry but not really there. I know it. And that's what I recommend you do as well. Because just using the words, just using the labels is not enough. You've got to be able to have a way of telling which direction you're going on the emotional scale. Okay. So then the next important thing that Abraham talks about is, for most people do not enjoy being in the presence of someone who is angry, because anger is directed outwards, and it's usually directed at whoever is in your circumference. We all know that. Somebody has a bad day at work and stifles their emotions, then they come home and they take it out on someone who is completely not to be blamed for the way they're feeling. And that's what Abraham is saying over here. Most would selfishly prefer that the angry person return to their former state of powerless depression, because their depression is usually turned inward. So a person who is depressed is hurting themselves, whereas a person who is angry is hurting other people. Anger and revenge are directed at other people, not at you. So other people don't like it when you express those emotions, because they don't want to feel bad. And so they tell you that you are inappropriate. Really, what should happen in the perfect situation is that you should be able to express your anger, and the other person should be able to keep their place over here. That's what parents do. That's what parents do. That's what good friends do for each other. When somebody is angry, they don't get sucked into that anger. They stay here and they keep expressing love until you get rid of your anger and join them up here, right? Okay. Because if somebody makes you feel inappropriate about your anger, then what happens is you go from anger to depression, and then you come back up to guilt, blame, anger, revenge, again, depression. And that cycle has to break in order for you to start feeling good about yourself. Okay, page 119, Abraham is just talking about how people go up the emotional scale in a stepwise fashion. So I'm just going to skip over that to the next page, 120. Some beautiful words over here, and really something really important that Abraham talks about is understanding what is desire. Desire, so Abraham says, we would describe the sensation of desire as the delicious, yummy, delicious awareness of new possibilities. What they are trying to say here, something that we've discussed before, that I have talked to you before in previous chapters, is that every time we give birth to a preference or a new desire, it happens from up here, from a place of joy, because it's fun to think that, oh, I would like it to be this way. That is fun to think. Or I'd like more money, please. It's fun to think about that. But what happens for most people is, after they give birth to the desire, then in the next instance, they go down the emotional scale, because then they notice that they don't have what they're looking for, and they start noticing the difficulties on the path to getting it, and that brings them down. And when that happens, it doesn't feel pure like desire feels. It feels like yearning. Yearning has a negative connotation. Yearning does not feel good inside, but pure desire feels good. So then Abraham says, while they are using the words of desire, they are offering a vibration of lack. They come to think, so people, we come to think that the feeling of desire is like wanting something that they do not have. But there is no feeling of lack in pure desire. Why is this important to understand? Because if you understand this, then you start understanding which side you're on, which side of the stick you're focused on. If you're yearning for something, and in the Heart and Mind Alignment Program, which is this is the workbook for the Heart and Mind Alignment Program. I teach this as a 4-week course. And I think enrollment, so you can check, if you're interested, you can check when enrollment will be open. It's in the description of the videos. And so what is important is that everything has two aspects, the lack and the having. You get to decide which side you are focused on. And most people don't understand which side they're focused on. I like to give that example, it's very simple and easy to understand, of my daughter's friend. She and my daughter and her friend were talking one day, and they had exams coming up, and I heard her friend say, oh, this is really important, I hope I don't fail. And I was thinking, oh sweetheart, that's looking at it the wrong way, because you're looking at it from the point of view of lack. Instead, better words would be, I hope I pass. But we do that with so many things. I hope this doesn't go wrong. I hope I'm not late. I hope I don't fail that exam. I hope I don't, whatever. And that is the way we've learned to express our desires, and we feel that we are expressing our desire, but when we talk that way, that's not an expression of desire, that's an expression of lack. So then Abraham talks about those people who say, Abraham, I've been taught that it's not appropriate for me to have any desires. I've been taught that the state of desire will keep me from being the spiritual being that I'm supposed to be. And Abraham says, and I've heard them say this, Abraham says, but is not your wanting to be spiritual also a desire? As long as we are alive, as long as we are breathing, and as long as we are conscious, we are always giving birth to preferences. When you're hungry, you give birth to the desire of eating. When you're thirsty, you give birth to the desire of quenching your thirst. Just being in this physical body gives rise to desires. You have to pee, you have to poop, you have to do things, right? You have to itch your nose, you have to cough, sneeze. And wanting to do those things are also desires. So we will never ever be devoid of desires. Now Abraham comes to a really important step here, and that step is, does your desire feel like the next logical step? People ask me, Zara, how do I know if my manifestation is near? This is how you know. Because your manifestation doesn't feel like something far away. Your manifestation feels like, that's the next step. I'm just going to do it. It's going to manifest. It's going to happen. There's no question about it. There are no ifs, buts, or whatever. It doesn't matter to me what anyone says, because this is a done deal. When you feel like that, then your manifestation is just around the corner. So if something feels really big, that means that you are looking at it from a point of view of lack, not a point of view of having. If something feels like, and Abraham gave this example of a daughter and a mother who wanted to buy a bed and breakfast. And the daughter said, if only we could find a way to make this happen, it would make me happy for the rest of my life. If this could happen, it would make up for all those things that I wanted that didn't come to pass. That is a way of looking at the thing that you want from a point of view of lack. So she's not looking at the having of it, she's looking at the lack of it. When your desire feels so big that it feels unreachable, it is not on the verge of manifestation. When your desire feels to you like it is the next logical step, then it is on the verge of manifestation. And I guess, I didn't realize it, but I guess we are getting to the end of the chapter. So then Abraham summarizes, and I'm going to read this summary because it really does bring everything together. You can tell by the way you feel whether your vibration is in the place where you are allowing universal forces to deliver your desire to you now or not. With practice, you will know whether you are on the brink of a manifestation or whether it still needs some work. So here's the summary. You will enjoy, so once you start figuring it out, knowing how to work the emotional scale, number one, these are the changes that will take place in you. Number one, you will enjoy your exposure to variety. You will not be afraid of things changing. You know how they say change is a constant? Well, you'll actually start enjoying that variety. You will enjoy the sensation of your conscious awareness when you're not a vibrational match to your own desire. So as you start understanding that all you need to do is to shift your thoughts, it won't bother you anymore when you dip down on the emotional scale, because you will know exactly what to do to go back up. You will feel relief as doubt slips away and as secure feelings of well-being replace them. So what that means is, when you start understanding how this emotional scale works, you're no longer afraid of anything or anyone, because you start understanding that nothing bad can ever come to you if you're in this realm, this region here between satisfaction, hope, and joy. You are, my friend, in such a good place. So you start understanding that you don't have to push people or things away. You don't have to fight against negative experiences. You don't have to worry about the flu season and things people talk about, because they just don't come into your experience because you're over here. And that is empowering, and it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to know. You will enjoy sensing things that are about to happen. So you see, because you can tell how far you are from the manifestation. When the manifestation is close, you know it. You know it. You're like, okay, this is happening, folks. This is going to happen. We are going to do this. Okay? You will revel in the conscious awareness that you have deliberately molded your desires. I'll tell you, the feeling of power that you have when you start knowing how to work this thing is awesome. And that's what Abraham is talking about over here. You will adore the sensations you feel as you align again and again with the fruits of your own experience. And I can tell you that I love feeling goosebumps, because when I feel goosebumps, when I'm saying something positive and I'm feeling the energy flowing through me as I'm delivering this to you, I'm in the flow. I'm not thinking this stuff. I haven't practiced it. It's just flowing. And that feeling of flow, oh my God, it is the yummiest feeling in the whole world. And feeling goosebumps make you feel your connection with your inner being, and it is the most joyous place to be. I just don't even have words to describe how that feels. The entire universe exists to produce new life-giving desire within you, and when you go with the flow of your own desires, you will feel truly alive and you will truly live. And my friends, this is what Abraham wants for us, and this is what I want for you. This is the reason why I am doing this book study, is because there is so much in this book that needs further explanation for most of us. And I hope that's what I want. I want to be of value, and I want to bring that additional material to you to help clarify your understanding of how things work. So I feel blessed to be here with you tonight. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you. Actually, we'll be starting part 2, so I will see you tomorrow night with the beginning of part 2. Take care, have a fabulous rest of the evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.